They found the first cartel enforcer at dawn, zip-tied to the East Ridge welcome sign. By sunset, 3 more were discovered, scattered across town, each one a high-ranking member of the Rojas cartel, each one defeated by someone they had gravely underestimated. The small Mississippi town whispered about the deep boot prints in the dirt beside each captive, but nobody connected them to Elijah Cross, the quiet mechanic who had moved to town 5 years ago, after what everyone assumed was a tragic accident. The townsfolk had always wondered why he chose to live alone, why he seemed to know too much about the cartel's movements creeping up from the Gulf, and why his eyes carried the weight of someone who had seen too much. They were about to get their answers, and those answers would change everything they thought they knew about the man they had been offering Sunday dinners to for years. The morning sun beat down on Elijah's shoulders as he methodically worked under the hood of an old Ford in his shop on the outskirts of town. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, adjusting belts, checking fluids, listening for the subtle sounds only an experienced mechanic could catch. The wheelchair beside him was not an obstacle. It was an extension of him, built with reinforced wheels for rough terrain, compartments for tools, and modifications only he knew about. He caught movement in his peripheral vision, 2 black SUVs crawling up the dirt road leading to his shop. Their tinted windows reflected the harsh Mississippi sun. Elijah's expression didn't change, but his hand instinctively moved toward a compartment beneath the seat of his chair. The vehicle stopped 30 yards from his position. 4 men emerged, led by a figure Elijah recognized from intelligence briefings years ago, Marco Valera, the Rojas cartel's regional lieutenant. He had aged since his last file photo, but the jaguar tattoo curling up his neck was unmistakable. "Senor Cross," Valera called out, his accent thick with false courtesy. "We need to talk." Elijah adjusted his cap, taking a slow glance at their positioning. 2 flanking Valera, another hanging back by the vehicles, but it was the movement in the tree line that concerned him, at least 3 more, trying to circle around back. "My shop isn't for sale," Elijah replied evenly. "Never has been, never will be." Valera's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Things have changed. Distribution routes through this region are becoming complicated. We're offering fair compensation." A bead of sweat rolled down Elijah's neck. He had heard similar euphemisms in another life. The cartel needed control of the land to move their operations north. Nothing about this was fair. "Nothing's complicated about property rights, Mr. Valera," Elijah said. "Been in my family for 3 generations." One of Valera's men stepped forward, hand resting too casually near his concealed weapon. "You don't understand, old man. This isn't a negotiation." Elijah's wheelchair pivoted slightly, positioning himself at the optimal angle he had calculated years ago for this exact scenario. "No," he agreed quietly, "it isn't." The next few seconds exploded into action. The man reaching for his weapon found his wrist caught in a lock that shouldn't have been possible from someone seated. His gun clattered to the ground as Elijah used his own momentum to send him sprawling. His wheelchair became a pivot point, years of adapted combat training, transforming what others saw as a limitation into a weapon. Valera backpedaled, genuine shock replacing his practiced smile. "What the?" The sound of approaching sirens cut him off. Sheriff Nate Holloway's patrol car appeared on the horizon, right on schedule. Elijah had called him the moment he spotted the dust cloud, knowing the cartel's initial approach would be just a warning. "Seems we'll have to continue this discussion another time," Valera said, masking his surprise with a sneer. "Think carefully about our offer, Cross. Accidents happen in small towns." As the cartel vehicles retreated, Sheriff Holloway pulled up alongside Elijah, his weathered face creased with concern. "You all right, Elijah?" "Just another morning in East Ridge," he replied, already cataloguing the intel he had gathered, license plates, faces, the specific models of their weapons. "They'll be back." Holloway studied him for a long moment. "You knew they were coming." Elijah wiped his hands on a rag. "Let's just say I've gotten good at reading signs." The sheriff exhaled heavily. "Things are about to change in East Ridge, Elijah. You ready for that?" Elijah turned his wheelchair back toward the shop. "Been ready for a long time." By the time the sun dipped low in the sky, the town was buzzing. People spoke in hushed voices outside the diner, at the hardware store, in the barber shop. The Rojas cartel had made their move, but something had gone wrong. For the first time, they had met resistance, and the whispers kept circling back to one name, Elijah Cross. Nia Harper, a newcomer barely in her 20s, approached him outside Peterson's general store. "Mr. Cross, I heard you might need help around the shop." Elijah studied her carefully. New faces in East Ridge were rare. "Who told you that?" "Sheriff Holloway mentioned it. I just moved here from Baton Rouge, trying to start fresh." Something in her eyes spoke of running from something or someone. Elijah recognized that look from his past. He also noticed the slight bulge of papers in her jacket pocket, likely immigration documents carefully preserved. "Ever worked in a shop before?" "No, sir, but I learned fast, and I'm not afraid of hard work." Elijah nodded toward his truck. "Let's talk at the shop. I don't discuss business in town." The drive back revealed more about Nia through subtle tells, the way she scanned her surroundings, her careful attention to escape routes. This wasn't just someone looking for work. As they pulled into the lot, Elijah noticed fresh tire tracks near his fence line. Cartel surveillance, no doubt. "First rule," Elijah said as he parked. "You see any vehicles you don't recognize, you call me immediately." Nia's posture shifted slightly. "You worried about the cartel?" "Should I be?" Their eyes met. An unspoken understanding passed between them. Nia slowly pulled out her papers. "I testified against them in Baton Rouge. Witness protection wanted to send me to Wyoming, but I chose here instead." Elijah absorbed this information, pieces clicking into place. "Sheriff Holloway didn't just mention the job, did he?" Nia exhaled. "He said you might understand my situation." A distant engine sound caught Elijah's attention. His hands moved to his wheelchair's controls, positioning himself at a specific angle to the shop. "Inside," he ordered. "Now." They made it to the garage, just as a black SUV crawled past the property line. The headlights swept over the gravel drive before dimming, as if the driver wanted to avoid drawing too much attention. Elijah activated a hidden panel in his wheelchair, revealing a small monitor. Multiple camera feeds sprang to life, tracking the vehicle's movement with silent precision. "You're not just a mechanic," Nia whispered, watching as he seamlessly switched between different camera angles, following the SUV as it inched along the road. "And you're not just looking for work," Elijah countered, his voice quiet but firm. She hesitated, then nodded. "Seems we might be useful to each other." The SUV disappeared down the road, but Elijah kept his eyes on the feeds. His fingers moved across the controls, shifting perspectives. Other cameras, positioned in the dense tree line beyond the property, revealed subtle movement, dark shapes adjusting their positions. Cartel spotters setting up observation posts. "They've been watching for weeks," Nia observed. Her voice carried no surprise, only certainty, testing response times, logging routines. Elijah turned to her, eyes sharp with unspoken knowledge. "Still want the job?" Nia's jaw set firmly. "I didn't run from them just to keep running." A slow nod of approval. Elijah pressed another button, and a section of the garage wall slid open with a quiet hiss. Behind it lay a hidden room, tactical gear, surveillance equipment, and an arsenal of weapons meticulously arranged on metal racks. The glow of red emergency lights bathed the space in an eerie hue. "Then, let's talk about your real resume." Before Nia could respond, the monitor flashed red. A second SUV had appeared, stopping just beyond the fence line. The passenger window rolled down slightly, the glint of a rifle barrel catching the last light of day. "Looks like they want to test more than routines tonight," Elijah murmured, his hands already moving to pull up additional security measures. Nia stepped closer to the monitor, her eyes narrowing as she assessed the situation. "Then let's show them they chose the wrong town." Elijah cracked a rare smile. "Welcome to East Ridge." The words had barely left his lips when the first shot rang out. A sharp crack split the air as a bullet struck the reinforced exterior of the garage, sending sparks flying. Nia and Elijah didn't flinch. Instead, Elijah hit a switch, plunging the room into tactical lighting. Steel shutters locked into place over the windows, and a secondary feed showed automated turrets activating along the property perimeter. Nia turned to him, her expression unreadable. "Hope you've got more than cameras." Elijah gestured to the wall of weapons. "Take your pick." Another shot, then another. The cartel wasn't waiting. Nia grabbed a rifle, checked the magazine, and chambered around in one fluid motion. "They're testing us," she muttered, rolling her shoulders as she stepped toward the door. Elijah exhaled, his fingers tightening over the controls. "Then let's make sure they fail." Outside, the wind carried the sound of engines revving and doors opening. Shadows moved beyond the perimeter, figures shifting in the tree line. The night was alive with unseen threats, but inside the garage there was only one certainty: East Ridge was about to become a battlefield.